Yeah, it says.
Rani, we are
Yeah.
good.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining for today's session. Karnataka Wiki HR Council invites all of you for this wonderful session with power packed dignitaries. Wiki is an international business forum which empowers women by its presence over 120 countries and a strength of 250,000 members. Wiki Karnataka HR Council is an ambitious initiative by our president, Shikha Gupta. She is instrumental in getting together accomplished women from various organizations and different walks of life. We are here in Karnataka HR Council to support each other and make a difference.
Sure.
Shikha, over to you for introduction.
Thanks, Rani. And this council is also supported by Rani, who's the vice president. She's a seasoned HR professional, and she believes in making a difference to the women community and the society in general. And that is how she aligns with the ethos of Wiki Karnataka Human Resource Council. Thank you, Rani, for being a part of the council. Great. So this was quickly about us and Wiki Karnataka. Now let's come to today's topic, the most exciting and a very sensitive and a very talked about subject, POSH, right? Sexual harassment of women at workplace, prevention, prohibition, and redressal. I am, and we are, and the whole Karnataka Human Resource Council is absolutely delighted to have esteemed industry leaders like Rena, Shivani, and Neha grace this occasion. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this show, for sharing some insights, some knowledge with us, and we will get into a chit chat. But before I do that, let me do a quick round of introduction. I will start with Rena. Rena Khatri Tandon, as most of us know her, is the CEO of Right to Rise and also CEO of RTR Foundation. She is She's India's number one ISO certified POSCO woman. She also is a PhD from Brazil University in human psychology and child rights. Not only that, let's move on to know more about her. National Secretary for Women and Child Development, Government of India, recognized and registered organization like NCWD, Women in Child by Government of India, member of Government of India. Posh POSCO specialist in human rights, expert from Howard edX, accredited cybersecurity inspector. Rani, we have to be careful, right?
Yeah.
From Government of India, right? Certified human rights and child and safety practices from edX, Howard, USA, right? UNRX, Karamveer Global Fellowship Awardee for 2019-2020. Ma'am, it's an honor to have you. And also she's been a global ambassador at the World Women's Summit 2020 for sustainable UN goals for gender equality, inclusiveness, and UN Charter for Human Rights. Over 23 of years of experience that Rena brings. She's an international mentor, speaker, and a thought leader. A very, very warm welcome to you, Rena, to our show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Shikha. Thank you so much, Rani. I whole humbly thank you for having me here at Wiki HR Council. It's a pleasure to be with co-panelists and with you guys and with all the lovely members from your chapter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise, Rena. Thank you. Moving on, our second guest for the day, Shivani Madan Bose, who's the founder of Proud HR Services. Shivani is an expert in behavioral skills training. She is a POSH certified trainer, and she has been instrumental in implementing POSH practices across various industries. She is an external panel member of ICC for various companies and conducts workshops on gender sensitization and POSH awareness. Now, what her current areas of interest include soft skills training, counseling, mental wellness initiatives, and leadership development and training practices. What makes Shivani different? Her ability to connect with the audience, in explaining topics in a very simple and layman language is what makes her stand out, which creates a very stimulating, interactive learning environment and encourages participation and individual creativity. Welcome, warm welcome, Shivani, to this platform. Thank you so much for gracing this occasion.
Thank you, Shikha, for such a wonderful introduction and for giving me this opportunity to share my views at this lovely platform.
Pleasure is all ours, ma'am. Yeah. Rani, over to you. Something
Yeah.
about Neha. Let's get to know her. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Shika. Moving on to our next guest for the evening, Neha Srimali. Neha is a certified POSH expert helping brands to create safe workplaces for women. She is a resource person with the Ministry of Women and Child Development. She comes with a decade-long corporate experience with leading MNCs in banking and finance industry. Neha is a trainer from Dale Carnegie and a certified psychometric interpreter. She is also a certified POXO enabler. With her master's in English literature, she is also an MBA in marketing and HR. Postgraduate diploma in computer applications makes her techno savvy as well. With her sound knowledge in the domains of gender equality, she is working on women's safety and gender inclusion in the organizations. Welcome, Neha.
Thank you, Rani and Shikha. Uh, it's an honor to be on the platform of Wiki, and I'm really so much fortunate to have this kind of invite. And of course, very proud to share platform with the people like Rani and Shikha, and the co-panelists like Shivani and Rena. So, very fortunate to have that. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Lovely. Thank you, Neha, and welcome to our show. I think I am enjoying myself so far, seeing this bright, wonderful young ladies, full of demeanor, full of dignity, full of so much of knowledge. Now, let me extract some knowledge out of these brilliant minds. So, a little chit chat. Maybe my first question to Rena. Uh, can you throw some light on the fact that for an organization to establish a POSH committee or to have a POSH committee, right? What do you think should be roughly the employee strength? How does this differ between big organizations versus small? Any guidance on that?
Thank you very much, Shikha. And once more, grateful to your council for having us. Um, POSH, as the name says, is very interestingly talking about three areas. One is prevention, prohibition, and redressal. So when we are working in formation of the committee, apart from what's written, I'm going to first iterate what's written in the act and then give you one more pointer on what's not written, which indirectly means that you need to have that when you're framing the entire committee. The act, as per section 4, talks to you about building a committee. Now, whether it's an IC committee or an LC committee is what you need to know. If it is an organization as small, whether you're a private limited company, whether you're a proprietorship, whether you're an unorganized sector or in organized sectors, that means that you may or may not have a framework, what is set, but still you're an organization. Okay, so if you have number of employee strength less than 10, then the act as per section 4 says that you need to build an internal complaints committee, which according to the latest amendment last year is being changed into IC, which is internal committee. Instead of just saying internal complaints, which handles only complaints, now it is of course doing much more than only complaint handling. So it is called the IC, internal committee. There's also a provision that if you have more than 10 people, then you have this IC. Less than 10 people, you go and get an LC registered system. LC is nothing but a local complaints committee, now called a locals committee. It is there present at every city, in every district. You have a specified district officer, and this district officer has multiple you can say, smaller districts or smaller zones. Like you might say
Subdivision.
District 1, District 2, District 3, or a subsection. It varies from city to city. For example, in Bombay, we don't have districts, but in Delhi, we have districts, we have
Yeah.
sectors. So people, when they are framing or working with companies, they somewhere get confused between district sectors, because Delhi different hai, Mumbai different hai, Chennai different hai, Telangana different hai, and other cities as well. So it all comes down to the same thing. They are basically certain sectors or certain area compositions that you can say inside the district, which have their own officers, and you can get yourself registered there. So if I am a 4-member setup, I need to get into an LC. If I'm an 8-member setup, I need to get to an LC. But if I am more than 10 or 11 or even 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, then I go and develop an IC inside my system. Various members are required inside the IC, starting from your presiding officer to a female member, to a male member, to an external member, and they have certain provisions. Each of them, yes, nothing has been written in the law. What are their particular requirements when they have been chosen? Other than being specifically said, they need to be having a sound understanding of law. They need to be somebody specialized in the field of social work or have worked with women and women associations. And they need to understand the different nomenclature of what the POSH law, POSH Act, and its implementation means. But nothing has been very openly, specifically written. So it doesn't say you need to be an advocate, doesn't say you need to be a lawyer, it doesn't say you need to be an NGO specialist. It says any person who's eminently worked with women, social work, and has a sound understanding of the law, and a person from the company who's a senior most women. Because we are here talking about safety, dignity, rights of women. So of course we need to have a leading person who's a woman. And then of course we have a male person to represent 2 women workers as well as members, and then the external person who we know has to be from an external body. Yes, each member of them have to hold a position for not more than 3 years. And if they do, then they need to specify to the ministry why are they continuing with that member. But again, it varies if you look at the various organizations that we are dealing with. Every organization has their own protocols, and why are they going ahead with the same member or they are changing. It's always advisable to get a new member, because I think fresh ideas, fresh propositions, and a better, safer environment can be created. So apart from that, I think there are various other setup norms that we need to follow. But yes, this is basically the framework that we need to find out when we are setting up the IC or the LC committee. So that's info.
Fantastic. I don't think so. I knew about districts and districts, yes, but subsections within districts. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for answering that.
Welcome.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Shivani, this is to understand from you about how a committee is formed in a corporate, like who are the members, the constituents, and what would be the duration or the term of such a committee.
Shivani, you're on mute.
Thanks for adding that. I would have continued. So I think right now the most common used words is "Am I audible?" or "Is my video there?" So that's what we keep talking about. Yes. Back to the
You're on
question.
mute.
Yes. So Rani, back to your question. So like whenever we have an organization who has to form an ICC, the main thing they would look forward is first of all who's the most senior woman employee. So they generally make her the president of the committee. Then they would have 2 more employees on the committee who are generally, if you talk in the practical way, they are someone who is to be trusted and who can maintain confidentiality, handle the complaints in a neutral way. So these 2 persons can, so generally the law is a little ambiguous and they say it can be someone who has knowledge of the law or who is involved in social work. But generally what any organization would do, keeping the constraints, we have startups and we have companies with thousands of employees, they would just consider 2 employees who are good on the trust and confidentiality factor. And in 90% of the cases I've seen that one of the employee has to be from the HR, being from the role they come from and the work there too. So one of the person would be from HR. Now out of these two persons also, one essentially has to be a woman, because whenever you form a quorum of a committee, so quorum is the minimum members required, at least 50% has to be women. Then there has to be an external panel member. This
Okay.
external panel member, this can be a person from an NGO who's associated with social work, someone who has knowledge of law, so can be an advocate. Though there has been a recent case where they said that someone who merely is an advocate cannot become an ICC member. So there's a bit of ambiguity there. They also take up someone who has a psychology background. So where I would figure in as an ICC member, a lot of companies is I have a psychology background. So wherever we get these cases, to see where the case was coming from, was the inquiry neutral, was it malicious, how do you figure out such things? So someone from that background is what they would see for an external panel member. Now, one simple quality that they see for any external panel member is this person has to be neutral. He or she cannot be biased or commercially involved with the organization. So it cannot happen that the organization can pressurize him or her to take certain decisions. So that's how they would form this committee. And like Rena mentioned earlier, the tenure of the committee is 3 years. But I have seen that a lot of companies still now, at least around 63% of the companies have still not been able to form the ICC committee. So after 3 years also, they generally try and repeat the members, and they provide the justification in the document. So there's a document that we submit for the compliance. They will submit that these are the people we have. And as of now, a lot of companies still don't have a lot of women employees. So they try and get the same people in place. So that's how they would do. And in addition to that, like any company which has multiple branches, so they say they have a branch which has 10 or more employees, they would again need to form an ICC. Now, most of the time, they practically face an issue. Now, if I have a small branch having 10 people, there is no female there. Then I can borrow the main members from the head office. I can say probably I can request the corporate office that we would need members for this ICC. And only problem there would happen is they might have to travel when the inquiry is happening. But right now, with the advent of technology, we are all talking online. So that's what they can
Right.
as well do. So this has helped.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
interesting.
you. Thank you.
Maybe I have a small question in between. I
Yes.
don't know how intelligent or how laymanish it is, but you did mention that the council comprises of people from psychology background, right?
Yes.
In a lot of organizations, I have seen most of the HR folks are
Yes.
associated with the POSH committee, right? And
Yes.
necessarily these HR folks don't come from psychology background.
Right.
They are an MBA in HR. So I mean, how does it? I mean, what is more important? Is it an HR person being in POSH, or should a psychology person be in POSH, or they both are equals?
So, see, the prime importance for any member to be in the committee is they have to get a feeling of trust there. So, any person who comes up with the complaint, they have to handle it in a very confidential manner. So, that would be of prime importance. And generally, HR people are considered someone who can maintain confidentiality. So, necessarily, they come into the picture. Now, as an external panel member, you can probably consult a psychologist. Would help. So, these people coming in the picture and someone saying, okay, I'm not happy with the way the complaint was filed. So, you have the documentation there that this is the way we handled the case. You could always show that we could maintain complete confidentiality, and it was done in a judicial way. So, that's how they would help it. But any organization having an HR member helps. I have also felt that if the cases backfire, then they backfire a lot if the HR is involved. So, say if I am a part of the committee and I'm an HR head, so that kind of backfires for the HR person as well. So, I have always recommended that HR person should not be there. But as a practice, wherever we go, HR people are involved.
Correct, correct. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Great. Okay, moving on to let's ask Neha. What happens if there is no witness in such an instance, right? There are a lot of cases that are reported, and I'm sure there is investigation that goes behind it, right? What the two parties have to say. Beyond that, you need witnesses, right? So what happens if there is no witness? How do you guys deal with that kind of a case?
See, according to me, what I have seen, generally posh cases happens when actually there is no witness, because there are very less cases when it is on a virtual platform. They can have some kind of proof or something like that. But somebody who is harassing would make sure that there is nobody watching this generally in the cases. So it becomes very challenging actually to have witnesses, because nobody comes on the floor openly and do some kind of comment publicly to a female or something like that. They would make sure in that cases, good if a female can have some proof at least, or else otherwise the confession only becomes the kind of thing, the questions that are asked, and they have to make out only through the confessions, because if there is no proof, no witnesses, confession only becomes the thing. So either of them should have such kind of thing, and that is what psychologists are there, who can at least gauge and make them confess that actually something has happened, that goes to confession. So that is the only thing we are left with in case we don't have anything. Otherwise, a proof and the witnesses are actually mandatory. Nothing can happen without that. So that is what.
That makes me
So I
ask
did
another
like to add,
question.
I just
Yeah,
like to add something if I have your
Sure.
permission. So
please.
there are a lot of cases, where you would not have an evidence, like Neha rightly said, because this happens in a private space. Still, what a woman can do, like I have handled these cases where a woman came up, she was a worker, and she said a man used to stare at her, a male worker
Yeah.
there, and used to stare at her. Now, how do you prove this? So in this case, she did note down the time, the date when this happened. She completely maintained those documents, told the supervisor about it. Then what the supervisor did was he informed the ICC committee. So we started the complaint in complete. We started the inquiry in complete confidentiality. So we saw there was a CCTV. There was no CCTV there.
Mm.
Now what's the next step? What you do? Then we started talking to the colleagues. So there were a lot of workers who were working. Then we asked the other women colleagues, have you ever faced this kind of issue? Because generally what would happen is these people have a pattern. So anyone who is a sexual offender would have a pattern of behavior. It would not be just directed to one woman. And fortunately, in this case, lot of women came up and said, "मैम वो तो ऐसा ही है, वो ऐसा ही करता है, सब लड़कियों को परेशान करता है." And in this case, we were able to find that the accused is guilty because of this, and we were able to take adequate action.
So tell me one thing. I'm sure you guys give. So yeah, some organizations have the CCTV camera footage, which works well, right? For you guys
Yes.
to decide, for you guys to intervene. Do you also give weightage to things like chat messages, WhatsApp messages, and stuff like that?
So absolutely right. Right now, virtual sexual harassment is very rampant. We have got almost 73% rise in sexual harassment cases just because of the virtual medium being available. Now, while that is a bad thing, what is the good part is any kind of virtual sexual harassment means there would be an evidence. So if it's a Zoom call, it can be recorded. If it is a message that has been sent, so you have the snapshots. Like we had this one recent case where the HOD sent messages to the intern. The messages were okay, they were decent, but he was using emoticons which were not so decent. And the girl specifically mentioned thrice, "Sir, please don't use this. Don't send me this emoji." He still continued. She filed a complaint even before joining the organization. And then we were easily able to establish because we had the proof right there.
Shikha, these chats and these kind of virtual proof are one of the most prominent proofs for POSH complaint.
Correct.
I mean, if you
Yeah.
have these kind of proof, you don't need anything else. This is how it
Absolutely.
works so
Correct.
strongly.
Because
Shikha, I'll intervene there. Ideally, chats are considered as only 1/4 of the proof. We cannot consider it only as proof, because chats can be spoofed. As per cyber laws, chats can be created. They can be sent from any other mobile, so they are not considered as evidence and only evidence. Okay, as of now. The second thing is, not every company has cameras. Okay, so the first proof that we generally go for is facts. Facts which are spoken, facts which are listed, facts which are again recording. Like mentioned, you can only record something unless and until you've made a person realize or made him aware that we are going to record this statement. You cannot record without any consent. It's like saying I call you, you speak something, and I record something that you speak to me without your knowledge. Is that right? No, it's not right. You need to allow. And even interviews that are happening online, and nowadays Facebook is old fashioned, so people have started following people on LinkedIn, sending messages, also creating frauds by saying that I would like to interview with you. In turn, I would specialize you on a magazine coverage and pay you this much and that much, which just happened like a week before. these are messages that can be created, which can be false. But false messages or emails or WhatsApps can be done by anybody. I can always write a mail from your mail ID and do it. That's not a very big thing because that's one part of cyber frauds, right?
Right.
I can always create an SMS and say, okay, Neha, send a message to somebody, but that's not right. How can you just assure that that message is actually sent by somebody? The second thing is, even if you don't have any kind of proofs like cameras, or if you don't have any kind of proofs that prove your statement, the reoccurrence of that will surely occur if the person is habitual. So you have to create an ecosystem like how Shivani said. There will be always people who will be vouching, but they would not want to get into any kind of mess, saying that I'm ready to come forward and give the statement, but it has to be kept confidential. It has to be kept in between you and me, and you can sign some kind of a document and get that out from them with the intention that the aggrieved is saved and the respondent is not getting affected, or he doesn't come to know that you've done it. Of course, you will let him know that there is a witness and they have given the statement, but for some kind of safety reasons, we are not doing it. But you will have to work for getting the witness, and there is always some kind of a trail witness given by people around. SMSs alone will not help. Of course, we do work the easy way sometimes because we believe and trust people. लेकिन आजकल आंसू भी नकली हो सकते हैं, SMSs भी नकली हो सकते हैं, WhatsApp भी नकली हो सकता है, सब कुछ नकली हो सकता है. That you and me understand. We are in a space today where women can be good, women can be crooked, and so is with the other genders. So we're not here to say, one gender is not good and the other gender is always good. We know we all are working towards a safe workspace, and we are all wanting the same same system that this should be at such a high level that we curb any form of abuse and harassment, and every one of us are doing good jobs. But we also have to keep in mind that in doing that, we should not forget the major principles of natural justice, which says that you have to go by only facts. You cannot just go by one way of analyzing evidence, and there could be multiple ways. We can look at it maybe in the
Adding
forthcoming
to this, I
questions.
would like to say, probably this is a civil law. This is not a criminal law.
Yes.
So what you need to do is you need to merely show the probability that this happened. Like when you
Yes.
said that, probably like the SMS wouldn't work or the WhatsApp snapshot wouldn't work. So main thing would, something just like asking the person, this is a snapshot we got. Did it happen?
Yeah.
Yes or no? So a lot of times people do come up with the truth right there. You just grill them twice or thrice. And like I said, there would be a pattern. If he has done it to one woman, there are chances he would have done to the other women who are working there. That's how, the Me Too movement started. Because these people always have a pattern. They would, if there has been a sexual offense to one woman, they would have tried it with multiple other women as well.
Yeah.
So then,
that
so
reminded me of something
yes.
which I witnessed, and we were questioning this person. He said, "हाँ, मेरा ही phone है, मैंने ही किया है, but I was drunk. I was not in my senses, or I was with a group of friends. मैंने नहीं किया. My friend took my phone and he sent these messages to
Exactly. That's
this
so
girl.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so convenient, right, to put your blame on somebody else. My
I
friend
don't
did it.
own my phone. I don't own my decisions. So that's what they're saying.
And it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. What were you doing with that friend at 3 o'clock in the morning? We were drunk. It was Friday night, and this and that. It's people just pass on the buck so easily. Yeah, I totally agree. Good
These-
insight.
Rani,
Love
you're
that.
on mute, Rani. Rani is trying
Rani,
to say
you're on
something. I
mute.
think she's on mute.
No, I was saying agree that as the technology has advanced, so are the challenges, and
Yes,
that's where
absolutely.
the expertise
Yes.
come into picture.
Earlier,
And
there
the
were so many
challenges
prospects, there were so many angles to judge a posh complaint. Now the cyber fraud has added to one more angle of judging a complaint. And one more thing is that what law says and what practical the reality is on the ground, two are actually different things. Law only gives the platform a base to start something. But when you actually get into the query, you also need the help of these gadgets. You need the help of psychologists. You need so many angles, and they are just the thread to start with, which you actually have to take forward with the support to actually reach to the conclusion. and we cannot jump on the conclusions so easy, including these virtual platforms. As Rena said about the cyber frauds, this is actually a new perspective that I've added. So thank you, Rena, for giving this new perspective.
Well,
Neha, you
Neha,
absolutely
I think
nailed
we
it.
are all
So law
mutually
can
trying to
be,
grow this space.
yes, yes. And I
Yeah.
think Neha, you just nailed it. It exactly is. The law is at one place. There are so many finer nuances of it where the law can be misled or the law can
Yes.
be utilized in the proper way. So it's up to the persons who are using it, how they use the law, especially the ICC
True.
committee.
True.
Nicely put. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Moving on to the next question. It's a little sensitive. First of all, a woman employee has undergone some kind of a harassment. She would also feel like, should I complain? What if I complain and people get to know about it? Which I don't want to, like, people to know about this. But eventually, I think as your investigation and other things start, maybe there is a point that this has to be exposed. So, how can I deal with such situations? Shivani, maybe you can throw some light on this.
So yes, so like as per the law, there is a provision that confidentiality has to be maintained. Having said that, I have seen a lot of cases where the information does move out. It becomes a matter of gossip. Like Neha said that we have the law in place, but then its implementation becomes very difficult. So we also have a fine if the ICC committee discloses the facts, it leaks it. There's a fine of 5,000 rupees. The information moves out. You cannot be an ICC member anymore. Still, a lot of times these things would happen. So one thing that's important is when you file a complaint, it is always in the best interest of the person who's filing the complaint, the respondent, to directly go to the ICC head, take 6 copies of the complaint, file it there, and then leave it up to them that they have to maintain confidentiality. Then second thing is lot of companies, the ICC itself is not properly trained how to handle these matters. So like once I receive a complaint, for some it becomes a matter of authority. Okay, I have got the complaint. Now I will tell others what is happening around. So they have to be informed that how important it is that they do not disclose the facts to someone else. And if this information goes out, it backfires both on the ICC committee as well as the company, right? And what they can do is they would call a lot of witness, like and I'd also mentioned, whenever the inquiry is happening, you would tend to call the witness. Whenever you call the witness, the first thing that needs to be told to them is that this information is completely confidential. If you take this matter out, there can be action that can be taken against you as per the code of conduct. So these small little things do make a lot of difference. Like initially, a lot of complaints that came, they got blew out of proportion. Now, a lot of companies are ensuring that there's confidentiality maintained. So these small little measures, first of all, making the respondent feel safe that she has made a complaint, she needs to be feel heard, she needs to feel that the inquiry is happening in a proper way. Same way for the person who has been accused. So chances are he's innocent. He also needs to know that the complaint would be happened in a very very unbiased manner. Most of the times, men feel that POSH is an act for the women, directed against men. So they also need to know that the inquiry would be in a very, very unbiased way. Then the ICC committee needs to handle it in a proper way, not let the information go out. So these are some of the things that can be done so that the information doesn't move out. And still, there are chances that it would. So unfortunately, the practical experience is I have seen a lot of places information going out, and then it becomes
Uh,
difficult for both people
I
to
would,
continue.
yeah, I
Yes.
would just share my experiences of my corporate life. When I was working with Deutsche Bank, we very often used to hear उसके against case हो गया, पता है वो posh case के अंदर फंस गया, and this lady has
Yes.
done a posh complaint, and that used to become a part of our gossip. Now, actually, there, despite telling the people that this is a confidential thing, there are some people who, if are told that don't share with anyone, becomes a stomach ache for them. So they need to go and share it. So this becomes a part of thing. So actually, officially there is a law and provision and compulsion and responsibility, but in reality it might become a part of gossip. So there are some leakages as well. So things have to be very very strong and stringent
Sure.
in
Absolutely.
reality.
And I think
Before,
like one thing
before
that
we,
can be, yes.
sure, sure,
Uh,
go
so,
ahead.
yeah, Shikha. So I was saying one thing that can be done is most of these ICC meetings are conducted after the office hours, so that not a lot of people are involved. Just not involve the office housekeeping staff, because these are the people who carry the gossip around. So just be ensuring that these people around get your tea, get your coffee in
Hmm.
place. Do it beyond the office hours, so that a lot of people don't know what's happening. Would help.
Yeah. So now our
Shivani,
audience
just
has
wanted
started asking questions. Maybe before we take that, I have a very curious question. What if, and I'm sure there are cases where somebody is not satified with the outcome of this whole exercise, right? That's one. How do we deal? Say, I'm in HR, Rani is in HR, and I'm sure these people who are asking questions on the audience, right, are also HR professionals. Number one, how do you deal with that employee, right? Do you counsel? I don't know, how do you deal? How do you handle him? Second part of the question is, does it always result into termination or somebody leaving the company, voluntary or involuntary? Some insights, any one of you, before we take the audience questions.
So I'll add
Maybe
something
Rani?
there.
Yeah.
Whenever a person is not satisfied, it's not always women, it's also men. Okay, and mostly I see also men nowadays coming up and saying, why do you really only believe the woman, or is this only a woman based act, or is it a womanizer act? They start using terms like that. Counseling helps only when the person is ready to hear. And when the person is not happy with your verdict or is not happy with your appeal, he wants to go ahead and make an appeal elsewhere. So, like we've already heard co-panelists speaking, that when you tell somebody don't do something, वो जाके कर लेगा. बच्चे को मना करो कि रिमोट टच नहीं करना है, पढ़ाई करना है, वो उल्टा जाके करेगा. So why tell him? Okay, they all know that there is something brimming. They know that the coffee is brewing. Smell aa rahi hai. Okay, so why make it so obvious? Okay, so interestingly, when Neha and Shivani were saying, of course, these things are happening, but even before the IC committee says anything, every company always has some kind of crooked people, some kind of straight people. Sometimes the top down approach is also not having a proper committee in place because they don't want it. Simple.
Correct.
They don't want an ethical ecosystem because they somewhere know that something is wrong within them and the culture that they've developed. So they don't really want an ecosystem that is really apt, what you call a safe workplace. So we need to understand that, number one. Number two, there are certain needs that everybody has. People would want a safe working place from the company, but does the company want to give it, yes or no? Thirdly, counseling never helps when a person is not ready. All you can do is hear, and he should be ready to speak. All you can do is listen, and the people should be there to listen to him. So, first, we have to be at a stage where we can only listen and not do anything else. So, yes, like Shivani already mentioned, mostly we do it after working hours. Now that we don't have any working hours, we are only online. These are created much more better because we are on a Zoom call, and nobody would come to know that you're on a Zoom call with the client or having a meeting or things like that. These are aligned much better. I find them much better. But yes, um, it depends on the organization again, what kind of people are there. Most companies down south have unions. Okay, that includes even the bhaiyas, didis, chaiwalas, and gurkhas, everybody who you see, who like gossiping. Let me tell you, they are not much of a problem compared to the educated lot we have inside.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
sometimes
interesting.
even the educated people act very silly, going and talking about situations that are happening in spite of they knowing that these are confidential. Why speak about something just because it is the talk of the town? Okay, so we have to constantly stop that. For that, you have to do some interventions. These interventions are not training programs. These interventions are separately to be done for people to realize that they need to be working safely over an ecosystem that can happen, or situations can brim not only for the XYZ but also for you tomorrow. Because if it's unsafe for all of us. It's not only unsafe for one person, right? So we have to somewhere get them to that thinking that it's unsafe. Let's at least help the people who are getting into this unsafe situation. Now, when you're sitting with this person, let's assume that's a lady. uh, if ladies don't trust you, they will not open up. You and me are all ladies. We know how difficult we are when we don't want to talk to a person who we don't trust, right? So when
Yeah.
we don't want to open up, then we have to get to another person. So if I don't really like to speak to, say, Shikha, I have to go and speak to Rani. I don't like to speak to Rani, I need to speak to somebody else. So it's not the same person all the time who does it. That's number one. Number two, the person has to be highly capable. I don't know whether he has to be a psychologist or not, but I know that he has to be very sound in counseling. He has to be very sound in patience. There is a person who I know who's not even any of the qualified structure, but has high experience into some other kind of a skill. But yes, the basic line is the person should be having great mental health with
So adding on to
counseling,
this, I like to say
psychology.
like you had just one question. If the person files a complaint and she's not happy with it, what do they do? So they have an option.
They will
They
go
can
to an
file an
appeal.
FIR.
Yes, they
Yes.
can
So
file
they
an
can file
FIR
an
or an
FIR.
appeal.
They
Yeah.
can go to the LCC, and it is the duty of the ICC to help them with it. So if I go and
Yes.
say to you, say Shikha, you are a part of the ICC. I am not happy with the way you are handling the complaint. The first thing is you can counsel her. You can tell her the way the complaint is going, right? Like it is based on facts and evidence. And if they still don't like it, you can further help them and say that you can go and file an FIR. We had one particular case where the woman was not happy with the case was handled, and we told her, okay, you're not happy, you go and file an FIR. Now, once they
They
file
don't
an
want to file
FIR,
an FIR. Yeah.
and she
I
did,
think
she did.
mostly they don't want to. They want to only quit. They don't want to
Okay.
file an FIR, or they want the other person to be dealt with most of
So
the
in
time.
this case, the woman did file an FIR. She went to the police station. She said, "This is what has happened. I'm not happy with the case, the way this case has been handled." Now the police station called us. They called the head of the ICC and said that this is what has come to us. What have you done? Now we want to know that. So now we can work together. Like this is what you have done. Only if this is something that you have not done, we'll take the case further. So in this case, whenever they would take it up either to the LCC or file an FIR, both of you have to work together and ensure that she gets justice. So in this case, the police and the ICC worked together, and the woman was told like this is what can be done based on the facts. Whereas she would probably wanted a more strict punishment or something to happen which could not happen based on the facts and evidence. But since the fact that both of them worked together, we could come to a conclusive decision. But had the ICC said we can't help you with the FIR, then it would have played very negatively against the organization.
But
So
a
that's
lot of
something.
companies don't work together, Shivani. Let's come to the consensus. पहले तो FIR दर्ज करने तक लोग नहीं जाते हैं. Ladies don't go. Secondly, if they go also, sometimes the police is not very supportive. Not all the time do we have a system where specifically certain areas in the center part of India, okay, they are not at all supportive. They might even get to the instance कि आप एक बार abuse हुए हो, आप पुलिस के हाथों भी एक और बात abuse हो सकते हो. ओके. तीसरी चीज है कि जब आईसी को बोलते हैं सपोर्ट करो, पहले तो आईसी के पास डॉक्यूमेंट्स ही नहीं होते हैं जो वो फ्रेमवर्क की तरह बना के रखे व्हेन दे हैव सर्टेन केसेस कमिंग टू देम. Okay,
Yes, so
there are a
that's
lot
very
of
important
companies who
that you
don't
have
have
to be sorted
documents.
at your account.
Yes,
And
yes,
like as I said, like even for the police now, it is a mandate that whenever you go to a police station, there are CCTV installed. Then whenever a woman
yes.
comes up there, a woman inspector would sit with you. So that is a mandate. So now these statements, a lot of the hue and cry that we thought police stations are being doing have happened in the past, but things have improved. So this is what I'm sharing based on the real experience that I faced. That if they do come up with a complaint, there has to be a woman inspector sitting. There would be a CCTV there. Everything would be recorded. So now things are gradually improving, and I think I should use this platform to tell women that you can go ahead and file a complaint. Police is not as harrowing an experience as what they show in the movies, the media.
In the
Things are
movies,
becoming
yes.
better.
That's the impression all of us have.
No,
Correct.
Yes.
they do help. They help you to come to a conclusion, but how many percentage of these appeals go to closure, that I cannot say, because appeals go for a longer time. And if you are going through the FIR, then I see sometimes support, sometimes don't, because we have a clause already in the law saying that if it is getting to an appeal, then the police handles over the case and the IC somewhere is on the laid back approach, because then it becomes a civil or a criminal case based on the case study that has to be handled. So appeals do go in like a normal case. वो तो बहुत साल भी चल सकता है, 6 महीने भी खत्म हो सकता है, and sometimes they don't come to an end. It all depends on the case. So percentage of closures, we still have a lot of cases that don't go closed very fast and not towards the appropriate decision we want. So it's better to go through the ICC way, is what I feel. And ICCs are quite now getting aware that IC training is very important first. Once they get skill, then they know how to handle the cases, and they're all doing efficient work. Some of them, yes.
Okay, let's take some questions from the audience. I'm sure they've got impatient by
Yes,
now.
Yes,
they,
yes.
they
A
have a
lot of
lot of
questions.
questions. Yes.
Yeah. The first question is from Oindri Mandal, and she's asking if the senior most female member of the company is a new hire. Is she a good choice for the POSH committee?
Well,
Anybody?
I
Yeah.
would I would like to say that if she has gone to such higher position, she must be having some experience, work experience. So, Posh has nothing to do with the particular organization. It is all about the corporate experience or the individual knowledge and wisdom one has and the knowledge of this law. So it hardly matter if she is a new one. She has seen the work environment. She has been known to the employees earlier, and she know how things work. So that is perfectly okay. Even if she is new, she doesn't need to understand whole organization. She need to know the law. She need to know what is natural justice. She need to know what is to be done and how things are to be handled. So that is perfectly okay, even if she is new. This is what, as per me.
Yeah,
Yes,
sounds good.
something similar like if Rani is joining tomorrow your company, Rani might
Yeah.
have 10 years of law experience. She might be
So
an advocate or a lawyer, and she might be somebody who's already working with some women associations. Just because it's the first day at Shika's company, we don't judge her that she can't sit on the POSH panel as a presiding officer.
Yeah, very well said. I think the right experience, the
Thank you.
background, the expertise, we
that
have to
is
go
more
through that,
important.
and then yeah, organizations have to go through that and then decide. Yeah,
And I think
Rani,
the
you
most
go ahead.
important thing is she has to be trained
Yes.
as per the ICC laws. So she needs to know that. So if she knows that, I
Yes,
am sure she'll be able to handle it well.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Sure.
just one more question. Moving on to Bhavna's question, where by virtue HR professionals are to be a part of this POSH committee,
Yes.
other than their, expertise, what they have in the HR, is there any kind of a certification that they need to do to be a member of the POSH committee?
Yes,
Or maybe
definitely there
some
are.
program which helps, you
So like
know.
there are a lot of programs happening for POSH, so you can get POSH certified. Then there are programs for gender sensitization. There are programs for unconscious bias. So a lot of things they can do. So and I think a lot of HR professionals are already getting certified in them.
So, like Shivani said, see, if you look into the market, you'll find loads of programs. Now, a lot of people come and ask, how do we devise or how do we know which programs to take? Um, any program that helps you to skill yourself in that area expertise helps. As far as Right to Rise is concerned, we are not basically into training only. We are into training, compliance, auditing, and we also take care of how organizations can variously make interventions. We have almost 12 certifications at different levels of signature programs on POSH. These are all certified, and we are an organization that is an accreditation body to provide the certificate. Yes, we have also submitted our proposals and got it verified, and that is why we call ourselves, we've done the ISO certifications as well. So if you're interested in any level of the program, whether it's professional, whether it's practitioner, whether it's IC level, auditing level, compliance level, or being a consultant, then yes, you can do reach out with Right to Rise. But yeah, there are many other programs. It depends what is your choice and where do you really want to see yourself equipped. So you
Sure,
can
Rana.
always
So
go
would
up
you
to
want
us. Yeah.
to leave the email ID or details of the
Okay.
contact
Yeah,
person in
I can leave it to
the
you,
and we
Shika, and
can.
you can put it on the chat. It's right2rise.in, and I'll put it on the chat. You can just copy paste for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sure.
No problem. Sure, sure. Another question, and there is no name, so we have anonymous audience as well. Maybe let's see what she has to ask. Many a times we see misuse of sexual harassment case by women. How do we ensure a just and fair investigation? And I will tell you, I have seen that in my experience as well. Somebody is not performing, right? She knows she probably will go under a PIP program, right? Or during the appraisal cycle, she'll be a bottom rater or she will be asked to leave, right? So using sexual harassment as an escape mechanism, right, to save myself, right? And the poor man, whoever the opponent is, just gets through the grind. So how do we deal with such situations? I have seen them personally, yes, as well.
So, like, I've handled
Well,
one particular case like this. There was this woman who was working on the shop floor. Similar issues, not performing when told she'll have to go if she doesn't improve her performance. She filed this case. Now, what happens is this definitely buys her time because the ICC committee would happen. This complete inquiry would happen. It take maximum time you're given is 90 days. So, in this case, typically in 30 days, we found out that there is something malicious. Now, what does the law say? If you think that the complaint is malicious, you have to form another committee and get gather evidence and documents to prove it is malicious. That was also done in another 15 days time because here they were working at a very high speed. They knew the woman was at fault. So once that was found out, they asked her to pay. That also happens. So, and in this case also, we didn't have a lot of clear evidence. Again, talking to a lot of people, getting her reviews in place, seeing the letters that have been given. So we ensured all that happened. All the documentation, paper trail was there. Only then we could come to the conclusion that this is a malicious complaint. Having said that, these cases are definitely tricky for any organization, even
Yes,
if
yes.
HR knows, even if the boss knows. So you have to handle them very carefully, ensure that both parties are placated, and then inform that this is what we have found based on evidence, clearly based on evidence.
See,
well,
malicious complaint is also, like
yeah.
Shivani said perfectly, it based on situation to situation, organization to organization. अब जो situation शिवानी ने बोली, ideally in that situation they have created a separate committee. But as per the law, it just says that if you have a malicious complaint, you have to just prove that it's malicious, and then there can be action taken towards the lady as well. Now, action taken towards the lady, organizations generally don't take much action. They just report. We can only suggest and we can only report that this is what has happened. Now it can be taken by the law because we are only having powers of the civil court. We don't have powers of the criminal court, Supreme Court, or High
Criminal
Court.
case. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so we can only suggest that as per the facts, she has been proven guilty and she has been proven that she has provided false or malicious intent and the facts provided are not right. Now there should be some action taken, and this is what we suggest as action, and then give it over to the police and they hire maybe the other levels and we move ahead. Or there are a lot of other organizations, especially people working abroad. They have created their own committees handling code of conduct, harassment, sexual harassment, and other legal compliances. And they take over this, they handle it. They either counsel, they either remove her because it's zero tolerance act, or they go ahead and put her into other legal provisions. So all these things can only happen based on how compliant is your system. So we have a lot of international organizations who are having a lot more than just a committee. Okay, they have many other smaller committees that are operating, and they're operating very well because they have structured those kind of systems for very many years now. And we are just doing one part of it and supporting in the other interventions. So it could be zero
I think it
and they
would
just hand it
also
over to
be
the
because
police, or it could be multiple committees that can act as an ecosystem for a safe workplace.
so
So these
probably
can be
because
devised.
POSH Act is applicable for a country. So sexual harassment is a rampant thing. International countries have their own laws. For POSH is
Yes.
definitely applicable only for India. And
See, we,
having
we
said that,
say
so,
posh because that's the name here, but every country has its own name for sexual harassment committee.
and a
Right.
different law
So,
for that.
law,
So the
different law,
law, the committees, the way they function is very, very different from the way we do it.
different.
So like even if we say 2013, it's still in a very nascent stage. That is why we are having this discussion. So a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
things that we still need to understand
But
there.
there's something that the person is again asking. We are living in social media, so a lot of provisions have been called out for misconduct. How would POSH committee approach the new methods? So
Okay,
with
so I
social
think
media, a lot of things have changed. Like even 90 days provision is no more 90 days. Even though we say it's 90 days, we go beyond that. And there is amendments which have been sent 2 months ago. We have amendments by the government of India that though uh, we have 90 days period, we can extend to another 30 days. But it is better to still follow those norms. Social media adds, it has its own benefits, it has its own flaws. And while investigating both ways, sometimes there are courts which are closed, sometimes we open up, and then there are many cases for forwards. And IC committees do their best, but again, we don't come to many conclusions if we don't have witnesses and facts which are clear. We are still fondling around the entire case. we try to do our best to have not going into an appeal or into a further case investigation.
Sure.
But
Maybe,
if people in
last
the
two
ecosystem are
questions.
not safe, yes, please go ahead, Shikha.
Rani, you want to take up the next one?
Yeah. This is
Anjali.
from one of our council member, Kala. She wants to know like whether men also come up with posh complaints.
So they do come up for posh complaints, but unfortunately, it's not a part of the act unless you have a specific policy which is gender neutral. Like I advise all my clients that posh is a policy for women, but you can always add on and make it gender neutral. But if it is not gender neutral or you don't have a separate harassment policy, unfortunately, it only handles issues related to women.
So, Rani, I
Well,
have a
I
question.
would like to add, Shikha, on this. If men have some complaints, POSH is just to deal with women. But in many of the organization, what happens is that the committee is same. The people are same who are handling complaints for both. It's just that IC is named to the committee used only for women complaint. But sometimes that is the same committee that is handling both the things. But then the committee who is handling complaints for males is named as another kind of committee. Okay,
Harassment
so
committee,
I
they
see.
generally call it
Yes,
harassment committee.
absolutely. Second thing is that maybe the committee is different. It's just that the complaints related to males are handled only under the HR policies, and some other committee or some other people
Yeah.
are handling that. So if some male has a complaint, they go to HR for this. They do not go to IC for this. That's how.
So if
Absolutely.
I have to, and I always thought whenever I will come across a posh expert in my life, I will ask this question. So today is the day. If I have to take seriously, because there's so much of information on the internet. Hearing it from you guys probably will make a lot of sense to all of us. There was this Hindi movie by Priyanka Chopra and Akshay Kumar, right? Where Etras, where Priyanka Chopra was harassing Akshay Kumar, right?
Yes.
And nobody believed. Typical Indian mindset, right? A man does it to a woman, vice versa nahi hota hai.
Because
Now, according to you guys, you're the
right.
experts. If etras happens in a particular organization, right? How do you deal with it? If we have to take that as a case study,
That's an amazing question.
So
because
this
I
situation
do
actually
find
comes up in
answers
many
on the internet.
organizations. They all
Yes.
remember एतराज क्योंकि आज हम उस situation पे पहुंच गए कि ladies are very very broad minded, okay, and very very bold, highly confident, breaking glass doors and glass ceilings and glass walls and everything that you can think of. And
Breaking
also,
everything.
yeah, like the question which was posted by one of your lovely members, do men get harassed? Men get more harassed nowadays. And I will just tell one thing, there are many people like this who come across. Again, they will only come for three reasons. One, if they have been looked down at their own board of directors for some kind of revenge, or they want some kind of money pay, rise in legal or leadership positions. They want to be looked upon where they have been looked down on, and many other reasons that we know females want to be on the top. Uh, some of them play a dirty game because they need much more in terms of sexual consent or sexual intent. Uh, it's quite common now because it all starts from college days and maybe university days and institution days and many more. But uh, if you don't have facts, you can't deal with any of these cases. Okay, and they are still under cover and under table. Under table, there are things which are legally done, illegally done, and we know it. But
Yeah.
Etra's question is that if we have somebody like this, then we need to have evidence to prove it against her. Without evidence, you cannot prove anything. With Etra's, we showed a lady who was showing double identity. Okay, she proved that she was innocent in front of certain people, but when she was inside the room with the gentleman, then she misused him or misplayed with him. Now we have cameras. Not every company has cameras, like you said. But if the man is really getting abused, the man has to take some action.
Yeah.
And if somebody else is seeing it, then somebody else has to bring it in front of the IC. Even if they bring it in front of the IC, if the CEO is in support of what's happening, then nothing happens. So there are multiple factors that have to be taken in consideration when we are seeing this kind of the only movie look. What shows on screen is not always true, and what's
Yeah.
true may not
Yeah.
be on screen always. So
And to
let's
summarize
not
it,
get
I think
carried away.
Men can also file complaint. They can file it under the code of conduct, under the terms agreements in the appointment letter. They can file a complaint. They have a voice. They have a right to say what they feel is correct. And I'm sure, like, if goes to the right procedure,
Very
like
soon,
Neha
Men Too
mentioned,
movement,
this
Shivani.
Men Too movement will start. And I
On a
think
lighter
everybody
note,
has a
Tried.
voice.
So,
on a
interestingly,
lighter
4 years
note,
back, we tried Men Too movement to move ahead, but nothing happened. The petition was not really went through. When I was fortunate to be at one of the events of the Men Too event, they did file a petition, but it didn't go ahead. They filed it twice, but still they see women as a vulnerable part of our society, so it didn't really go through. Hopefully, with the positivity of all of us spreading so much
It will
light,
happen.
soon the men will also be freed if they are
And
getting abused.
if we see about the Vishaka guidelines, it came after 50 years of our independence. So for Men Too movement, it's going to take some time. We'll have to be patient. It's definitely in the agenda. I think even for posh amendments, a lot of time it has been suggested. It'll just take some more time, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah,
and all of you there, right? Holding the fort, fighting it out, solving
we are all
issues.
in there, I think.
Yeah,
All
you're
of
all
us
there.
are there. That is why we're
We
doing
all
this good
believe, I
work.
think sexual harassment is a thing that should happen to nobody, irrespective of their gender.
Absolutely. Lovely. Rani, do we need more
Yeah.
knowledge? I think it was
Um,
wonderful.
I think
I still,
for today,
huh?
like
I know,
really,
I still have questions, but then,
yeah,
I'm sure our
it's
guests will
such
say
a
कि एक बार बुला लिया, you're not letting us go. Maybe next
no,
time.
it's really a very enriching experience, and especially for lay people like us, we would not know so much in detail how to go about. I
Yes.
really thank you all. That's such a nice awareness, very subtly put across, so that all of us are able to understand. And like I'm sure this is going to take a long way for each one of us.
Thank you so very much for j- joining our platform, for sharing your knowledge, sharing your time. And we will keep bothering you time and again for more insights, for more knowledge for our audience. That is Shikha Gupta and Rani Srinivas. Thank you
Yeah,
from.
I also would like to end up with this statement that Wiki Karnataka can proudly say, together we have made a difference. Thank you all. Signing
Today.
off.
Indeed, a
Thank
very
you so
big
much.
difference. Thank you,
Thank
co-panelists, and
you.
thank you, Rani and
Thank you,
Shikha,
So
for
everybody.
much.
inviting us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take
Bye.
care.
Good
Bye.
day.
Bye bye.